How to Solo the Destroyer with Void in the Summer of Suffering Part 1 event. For those uninitiated, I recently live-streamed myself soloing the SOS Destroyer with various objective champions, and now I live to tell the tale. Here is how I ranked the champs I used for this particular objective. See if you have one of the better options ranked up, and maybe check that tutorial out instead. But if not, let's get on with the show. I will first give a shortened summary of the things you should be aware of in this fight. If you would like a more in-depth explanation, that, and more, is contained in my General Destroyer Guide. I swear these aren't shameless plugs, by the way. I just talk a lot, so I'm trying to section things off and make them as easy to navigate as possible. This is for you, not for me. Please believe me. Anyways, the Destroyer. There are two core pieces of info to absorb. The first is that buffs are not your friend. When you hit him, for each buff you have on you, you will get a portion of the damage reflected at you in the form of an instant rupture. And even if you use a champ without natural buffs in their kit, there are still a couple that will interfere unless you have a buff immune champion entirely. One is your dexterity buff. Not much you can do about that one since you need to dex his hits, but just know that the first hit or two when you punish him after dexing, it will count as a buff towards that damage reflection. The other buff of note is an unblockable buff you'll get from the node. It's like hot potato. There's a timer, and if it expires while you're close to him, he gets the unblockable buff. But if it expires when you're far away from him, you get it instead. You can choose who gets it by deciding whether you get close or far from him when the timer's up. Again, unless using a buff immune champion, you're going to get some damage reflected back at you throughout the fight, but you'll be fine as long as you try not to activate your biggest avoid damage when you have buffs on you. The other core chunk of info is that Destroyer has these charges, and once he gets to 100 of them, he will gain so much power over a very short period of time. There are various things that will give him charges in this fight, such as he'll get 2 whenever you parry, gain a buff, lose your dexterity buff, or, if you're buff immune, when you would have gained a buff. The actual problem though is that he'll get 15 charges each time you do anything other than triggering dexterity on any of his special 1 hits. Yes, even if you avoid the hit due to being out of range. You specifically need to trigger dexterity. He has 3 hits on his special 1, so that's 45 charges if you dex none of them, which clearly is an issue. However, he will lose 1 charge every time you inflict a non-damaging debuff that isn't stun, so parrying won't help you in that endeavor. Additional mechanics of the fight, or things to keep in mind, are the following. You will be rooted during his special 1 animation, but that's actually helpful because it allows you to better stay in range in order to dex his hits. However, again, I would really advise you learn how to dex his special 2, because he doesn't gain any charges from that, other than the couple he'll get from you triggering a dex buff, nor are you rooted for it. It's not hard to do, I promise, and it's certainly worth it rather than trying to dex every single hit of his special 1 every single time. Next up, you cannot intercept him unless you have recently punished his heavy, because he is the Destroyer, and his whole thing is being unstoppable when dashing forward. This time he's stun immune when dashing, by the way, so you can only parry stun him while he's in close range. I know I mentioned that buffs are an issue, but if you're not taking a bunch of damage by messing up and getting clipped, you should have enough health to not worry too much about hitting him when you have a dexterity or unblockable buff active on you. Just be mindful. If you'd rather be safe than sorry, you can also use health boosts so the consequences aren't as severe. And lastly, like I always say, equip your goddamn relics. But some relics give you buffs, so stay tuned and I'll tell you which ones are safe to use for your specific champion. Got it? Okay, cool. Now allow me to explain how to use said specific champion for this fight. Void is nearly in fight pisser territory, so we will still be using our designated LMAO fuck you Tin Man method to the fight. He's just a more passive champion, so the standing around doesn't feel quite as rewarding as aggressively pissing on him like the tier 1 soloers. Any relics will work here. The claim to fame here is not within the quantity of Void's debuffs, but the quality of them, specifically his Petrify. If you can either get 2 of those stacked, or have at least 1 stack of Fear the Void active, the Destroyer will not gain any power even when he hits his 100 charge milestone. Another fun, yet not super important detail is that Void's rockin' a lengthy dex animation. So you're not going to be supplying nearly as many charges by gaining the dexterity buff, since it's less likely to trigger because his dex is just so long. What to do for the fight is play Void like you play Void. Legitimately, the only thing to keep in mind is to make sure you're maintaining his Petrify / Fear the Void, but that's super easy to do. It may be slightly harder if you have an unduped Void, but you do your best with what you have and you'll get him down. I believe in you. You will now see me attempting this process and succeeding from the faded livestream I did. I believe I got this solo on my 3rd attempt with an unboosted maxed out 6-star. Enjoy! Yeah, so this may be an instance where health boosts are good because even if you fight perfectly, you're still going to be taking some chip damage. Unless you're using a perfect counter. Titania was so good for that though. I'm shocked because I am not the best at playing her in the slightest. And she still wrecked that. Can I intercept? No, but I think we can still get you to 2 bars. That's all I wanted. So look, it expires there. Yeah, okay, I get it. Definitely don't want to use buffs. I was considering using Fantman, Future Ant-Man, but he actually may not be ideal if you're gonna get damage on you whenever you have a buff. Noted. Oh, and you get the... Oh, I can't believe that went through. You get the unblockable buff from the node, so you also get buffs on you no matter what, unless you are buff immune. That's interesting. Come on. Come on, I want you to use that power sting. Yeah, so it seems to be prevalent when punishing his specials, because you have to dex them. Good to know. Oh, I wasted that special one. Oh well. At least it got him to 2 bars. I'm afraid he's going to use the special one here, because there we go. I think Void's long dex is actually pretty good, because I feel more comfortable evading his special too. I feel like I have more of a window of time to do it properly. I know that so far on stream I haven't mistimed it too much, but it's really important. The amount of damage you get if you don't dex it properly, I think you can, at the absolute maximum, only make 1 mistake. So that's kind of important. It's not like the onslaught fight, Spring of Sorrow onslaught fight, where you can oh, I almost did that wrong. It scared the shit out of me. Can we kill him? Yes! Attempt 2 on Void. Solo. Woo! Pretty good. Not too bad. Void. And that's how you solo the Destroyer. I hope this was able to help. Hi there, post-editing Vol. I'm very sorry for the late upload, and I was going to say that I'll be rushing the other ones out, but I think that it is a bit too late for that, and there are many more tutorials to be made, so I think that I'll just leave these villain ones up, and I'll say that anyone can reach out to me if they would like to know how to solo the fights with the following champions: America Chavez, Quicksilver, Sasquatch, Spider-Man 2099, Spider-Ham, Hulk, and Jessica Jones. I soloed with all those, and I know how to do it. Apologies again. I should know better than to make promises like that, and I'll try to implement preventative measures next time so I can keep true to my word. Until you hear from me next, thank you very much for your patience, and I wish you the best of luck in your solos.